Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon, not here with Geeky in this video. She's actually taking care of our sick puppy. But we got some really big news for you. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting says it's shutting down after they canceled their federal funding. Now, I thought that was made possible by viewers like you. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting, or I guess that would be PBS, and they get part of their money from the CPB. It all sounds very KGB to me, but yeah, this is huge. I mean, this is a huge blow to PBS and NPR, and some people are going to be like, good. Other people are going to be like, not so good. And oh my God, think of the children. Wherever you land on it, this is huge. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting has been around for a long time, and all it took was, I guess, just pulling the right Jenga block to have it all crumble. I think PBS and NPR are going to probably fold at some point, or they're going to have to go like ad-supported or something. They're going to have to operate like an actual business and not a charity. And I don't know. Things are changing, guys. Things are changing. I don't know. Are kids actually watching PBS now? I got to ask that. Our kids did, but our kids are teenagers now. So I'm like, are kids today still watching PBS? Are they watching all the stuff on it? Or are they just, watching TikTok brain rot? I think they're just, so which is worse, I guess, the PBS cartoons. Actually, there's some pretty, I'll be honest, there were some pretty good cartoons on PBS. But yeah, let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Yeah, we'll go to Variety first. A lot of places talking about it. They're like, Hindustan Times, which apparently is a real paper. I thought it was like, it's a real deal. They've been around for 100 years. They're like Sesame Street, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, or ending. I don't know. It maybe. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting says it's shutting down after Trump-led cancellation of federal funding. 6 decades, longer than I've been alive. Because I remember watching Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street, and they always had the Corporation for Public Broadcasting before it. The move to wind down the CPB, which was provided funding to the PBS and NPR, comes after Trump led a successful effort to defund public media. Yeah, I think we're looking at a seismic shift here. In mid-July, Congress approved Trump's rescission package, which cut $1.1 billion in funding for CPB over the next 2 years that had previously been approved. The announcement also follows the release of the Senate Appropriation Committee's fiscal 2026 Labor, Health, and Human Services Education-Related Agencies Appropriations Bill. God, that's a mouthful. Which excludes funding for CPB for the first time in 5 decades. So that would be Democrats and Republicans. They agreed to fund PBS and CPB and NPR and all the other 3-letter agencies for decades. I have to wonder, though, did anybody actually pay attention to what was airing on these stations? Because there definitely was a shift. I started noticing it about 2012, 2013 with NPR. I'm like, yeah, NPR used to be, it was always kind of left wing. I'm going to be honest, maybe I didn't notice it as much, because you're talking to a guy who spent a good, part of his life like outside the Bay Area. So for me, it was like, oh yeah, they seem pretty balanced. But then to somebody in like, Wisconsin, they're gonna be like, hell no. So maybe I'm just numb to it, but they always seem pretty balanced until it was very, very obvious in like 2012, 2013. They said, despite the extraordinary efforts of millions of Americans who called, we face the difficult reality of closing our operations. Let's see the statement. Here's the official statement. Okay, Washington, August 1st. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting announced today it will begin an orderly wind down of its operations following the passage of a federal rescissions package and the release of the Senate Appropriation Committee blah, 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 blah bill. For 60 years, the CPB has carried out its congressional mission to build and sustain a trusted public media system that informs, educates, and serves communities across the country. Through partnerships with local stations and producers, CPB has supported educational content, locally relevant journalism, emergency communications, cultural programming, and essential services for Americans in every community. At one point in time, yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. I think PBS and NPR definitely had a place. But I think they've lost the plot. I think that they became obviously, obviously infected with activism, right? It wasn't just about informing the public. It was about trying to control, the airwaves and what people thought. And, I mean, it is. It wasn't unbiased. It became very, very clear they were biased. Just saying. Despite the extraordinary efforts of millions of Americans who called, CPB informed its employees today that the majority of staff positions will conclude with the close of the fiscal year on September 30th. So you got like 2 months yet. A small transition team will remain through January 2026 to ensure a responsible and orderly closeout of operations. This team will focus on compliance, final distributions, and resolution of long-term financial obligations. Since it is a government thing, they're going to have to just tie everything off nice and neat. If it were like a regular company, they'd just be like, yep, that's it. Put your shit in the box and get out. It's like, maybe we'll wind up in bankruptcy court. Who the hell knows? That's how it works in the private sector, right? Public media has been one of the most trusted institutions in American life. Yes, it was. Providing educational opportunity, emergency alert, civil discourse, it was, and cultural connection to every corner of the country. Harrison said, we're deeply grateful to our partners across the system for their resilience, leadership, and unwavering dedication to serving the American people. They're working closely. The board is working closely to address legal, financial, and operational requirements of closure. So it helps support the operations of more than 1,500 locally managed and operated public television and radio stations nationwide. CPB is also the largest single source of funding for research, technology, and program development for public radio, television, and related online services. So there's going to be a trickle-down effect, right? I mean, this could be the end of PBS and NPR as we've known them. If they're getting the funding cut. I mean, this is kind of crazy. Like, it's one of those things where something's been around so long, it's hard to imagine not having it anymore. Like when they shut down Kmart, right? For me, that was, I don't know why, it was like really devastating for me when they shut down Kmart and Sears, because I'm like, yeah, but Kmart and Sears have always been there, at least as long as I can remember. Now, older folks are like, no, I remember a time before Kmart. Kmart kind of popped up in the 50s or 60s or something. But yeah, you're at a certain age where it's like, look, this thing is older than me. Like if Sesame Street just goes off the air someday, it's going to be really weird to be like, yeah, there's just no more Sesame Street. How the hell did that happen? But then it's been on for like 50 plus. Well, Sesame Street's been on for like 60 years now. God, it's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, so NPR is lamenting it too. So I don't know. This is an NPR member station, Radio Catskill. They said, I didn't see a day where the separate institution, which is set to serve the public, would be shut down. They never saw it coming. I don't know what stage of grief I'm in right now. I think shock. I have to admit, I'm in shock too, because it just has always been there. So here the NPR news chief announces she's leaving days after Congress kills the federal funding. So this was last week. Man, the dominoes are just falling. It said Trump and his allies in Congress have argued, this is coming from NPR, so they're going to be extra salty. And his allies in Congress have argued that public media, especially NPR, is unfair to conservatives and a waste of taxpayer money. I say let the public vote on it. I'm serious. Let the public vote. If you want money from your taxes or whatever to fund NPR and PBS, then that should be an option on your tax return. I'm not even kidding. Let the public decide. And if it turns out that the public wants it and they want to keep it and they want some of their money to go toward it, then fine. Allocate money toward it. But if, you get like 3 people say, yeah, we still want, PBS or what, then it's not worth it. But if you've got millions and millions and millions of people and they're saying, give part of my taxes to fund this, then I think that's a democratic way to handle it. I'm just saying, maybe I should run for office. I'm just saying, just let the people decide if they want their taxpayer money to go. But then that's going to open up Pandora's box, right? Because if you let them decide on that one thing, then it's going to be like, you know what? Yeah, I don't want my taxes to pay for missiles. I don't want my taxes to pay for this. I don't want my taxes to pay for that. And then people are going to start questioning where their money goes. And then that's going to be a whole issue because we can't have the government be accountable to the meal ticket, to the bottom feeders, to the pay pigs, right? I mean, you can't. You're supposed to do what they say. That's a whole nother discussion. Did I mention I have libertarian leanings? Yeah, I definitely have libertarian leanings. I'm just saying the Democratic way to handle it, the right way to handle it, in my opinion, is let the public vote on it. And if it means that much to the public, then let them have it. That would be the way to handle it. Anyway, NPR, which produces news programs such as Morning Edition and All Things Considered, relies on direct federal funds for only a small portion of its budget. Okay. But it's approximately 1,000 member stations receive a heftier portion of their operating revenue through the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Those in rural and poor areas in particular rely on the grants. With its nightly PBS NewsHour and children's programming such as Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, which is made here in Pittsburgh, PBS gets around 15% of its revenue from federal money, as do its member stations on average. I think dominoes are going to fall. I am going to be honest. I think that's a huge blow. And then the US AID money and stuff too. I think things are going to change forever. Actually, what's probably going to happen is they're not going to have the local stations. They're going to kind of do what they do with radio now, and they're going to pipe it in. They'll have like one PBS, one NPR, or maybe they'll have like an East Coast and West Coast version of it, and then they'll just pipe it in. And you're not going to have your local stations. Like when I was a kid, little kid, I lived in Pennsylvania, and we lived pretty close to like Scranton, Wilkes-Barre. And so we had WVIA. And that was like the whole thing. And I'm sitting here trying to think like, man, there's going to come a day where there might not be a WVIA. No more Uncle Ted's been gone for a long time. Uncle Ted was a Shriner who it was like a horror show host. He was great. He came to our elementary school one time. Nice guy. Anyway, yeah, it's weird. It's weird to think about. The NPR is going to respond by stepping up to support locally owned nonprofit public radio stations and local journalism across the country, working to maintain public media's promise of universal service and upholding the highest standards for independent journalism and cultural programming in service of our nation. The network has pledged to take $8 million from its budget to help local stations in crisis. I think that's respectable. Republicans in Washington have accused public media of bias. Most Americans still support public broadcasting. A Harris poll last month found 66% of Americans support federal funding for public radio. Support include 58% of Republicans and 77% of Democrats. I say let the public decide. Let them decide if they want their money to go toward that. And that's my opinion on it. Now, that being said, I don't think we should just take taxpayer money to pay for news that's biased, or do some reform and be like, okay, well, you can continue to operate, but we're going to have somebody here to make sure that there's, a fact check or something, some kind of oversight or something. I don't know. But then that sounds, yeah, I know how that sounds. But yeah, I mean, it's just people got tired of paying for biased news. So this is coming from Hindustan Times, 100 years. They announced Friday they're going to wind down operations. What's the future of Sesame Street and Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood? Okay. They said the federal cuts hit NPR and PBS the hardest, causing certain turbulence to PBS Kids. PBS Kids is a major platform for educational animation, Sesame Street, Arthur, etc. Axing this platform will increase consolidation of educational brands under commercial streamers like Netflix, including shows like Sesame Street. Yeah, Sesame Street is going to Netflix, I think. But that's what kids are actually watching. I mean, if you want to reach kids, that's why, I back to the beginning of the episode, I'm like, are you really reaching kids with PBS? I don't know the answer to that. I really don't know the answer to that anymore because our kids are way too old for this. But, we used to watch PBS a lot back in the day. And I used to watch PBS a lot back in the day. PBS gets 15% of the funding from the federal government. Sesame Street and Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood are not immediately ending. They could face the heat along with many other shows. That is true. So yeah, there's going to be a trickle down effect because even ahead of this, just with the USAID cuts, they were announcing that they're canceling a lot of programming. So, I mean, I think Sesame Street will be fine. They'll probably put a bunch of ads on it or something. It's just wild to think about. But there it is, guys. I mean, things are like, I can't stress to you how much change we're going to see in the next couple of years, and you're either going to love it or hate it. And, it's just, it almost feels like it's too much. Like we had the pandemic, and then after the pandemic, it's just like warp speed ahead. Now everything that we've known for decades is going to be changed. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not even sure how I feel about it at this point. We're going to see a lot of change in the media, especially. We're going to see a lot of change in certain industries, and it feels like the temperature got turned up too quickly, right? We didn't get used to the temperature of the water. It got cranked up to an 11, and we're all going to boil, because normally I think we would have had a half a decade to get used to change. But because of the pandemic, it feels like everything was on pause. Now we're just dumping it all at once. And now all of a sudden it feels like, oh yeah, we're definitely in a different decade now. This isn't the 2018s anymore. Everything is changing very, very quickly. And like I said, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. I'm not sure how I feel. I'm being completely honest here. I'm not sure how I feel about it. This comes from Blue Sky. Hell of a thing to read this news while your kid's squealing with delight. Daniel Tiger. Well, I don't think Daniel Tiger's going anywhere. I really don't want to see the Gilded Ballroom destroying USAID, CPR, and NPR along with their friendly relations with Canada. Can't be forgiven. Yeah, well, it's Blue Sky. It's Blue Sky. But there it is. Hey, I'm just reporting the news. For now, you've got news on YouTube, but eventually that'll end too, because all YouTube wants to do is push shorts. So you're not going to get these 16-minute videos talking about this stuff. That might be a good thing. Who knows? Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up, guys. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Go out to news.clownfishtv.com. Check out our podcast over there. We'll talk to you later. For more pop culture news, views, and rants, go to news.clownfishtv.com. That's news.clownfishtv.com.